We call that one the Tablelands Mazurka set. It's one of our favourite tune sets to play. Tablelands being, there's tunes in there from around here and also from the New England, so all in the high country, and I think you can tell they're so pretty.
They're very pretty.
Welcome everybody. I hope you can see. Hi Carol, lovely to see you. Ruth, nice to see you too. I'm glad you like those ones. Yeah, I was just saying to Chloe before we started, it might be my favourite ever tune set. Three Mazurkas from the Tablelands. Anyway, cheers everybody, and welcome to Saturday streaming.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah. The cultural care package that goes in all directions, especially towards us, it seems.
Yep.
So we're happy to be here, of course.
Does us a lot of good to get together with all of you on a Saturday. And I hope you enjoy yourself too.
This is going up to Facebook Live and then up to YouTube, as we always say, if the creeks don't rise, as in if the tech goes all right. Normally it does. In fact, it always has. We've always got a YouTube out by Monday.
Yep.
So what we're really saying is we don't know where you are or when you are. So, to let you know, my name's Jason, this is Chloe. We're in Spring Grove, well,
also known as Millthorpe
in the Tablelands. So I'm looking east at the moment. Sydney's 200 kilometres behind you and downhill. It's all downhill to Sydney. Sorry, Sydney folks. I love Sydney town. And we're going to sing about it right now, in fact. In 1972, Denis Kevans wrote this song. But I'll get there in a second, where Spring Grove is right more or less in the middle of Wiradjuri country. Always was, always will be, and we feel very lucky to be as at home as we feel on this beautiful part of the world. If you could be anywhere, I'd be here, and that's our great good fortune. So welcome. We just coincidentally picked a couple of things from Denis Kevans, and if you can see Jacko, and there's a nice old picture of Jack in the wild colonial boys. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Just coincidentally, we picked a couple tonight. It's not really surprising. There's lots from both on the big lists. And then we thought, this is a nice idea. So this is like the pre-themed show, we think.
Yeah.
We're
dipping our toe in the idea of a themed concert based around the Kevans brothers.
And we're going to start with, I think, of relevance, a piece called The Green Band Fusiliers.
Yes.
The words are from Denis Kevans. I won't go too much into the story because I'm sure a lot of you know, but the Green Bands came out of one of those wonderful alliances. There's something in this, I tell you. Our future may lie in this kind of crazy and strange alliance. We're seeing it already as we walk away from the vile party politic. And in those days, what came along was an alliance between the builders' labourers and some hardcore union folks of various kinds, and some very middle, or even, dare I say, upper middle class, mostly women. In those days they would have said housewives, I'm sure.
Yep. Yes, women who wanted to make a difference to their local area when they could see their green patches disappearing and getting turned over to industry, or even just heritage parts of Sydney being knocked down and new buildings put up willy-nilly. And they realised they needed to organise, and who better to teach them than the unions. So the unions agreed to help.
So, we'll start with this piece from Denis. He used the old McAlpine's Fusiliers tune to get a bit of spirit going. Works very well. And
we can dedicate this to the school climate strikers
on
Friday.
Yes, more power to your arms, kids. We live and we learn from you. And thanks. You dozed down the churches, laid 'em level with the street, the sacristy and altar trodden on by passing feet. You didn't talk of sacrilege, we're knocking churches down, but we yelled, it's a sacrilege to smash old Sydney town.
Town, they would not lie down. They gave mountain scabs some cheer. car parks on the brain, told the usual lie, the trees have got to die, the big trees in Sydney's domain. And some said, Joe, we ought to let them go, it's only bloody timber to be clear. I would listen to the trees as they whisper to the breeze of the green land Fusiliers. Bulldozer blades made a lightning raid, coming in with a great big rush, moving in for the kill up at Hunter's Hill and beautiful Kelly's Bush. But the local women lay down in the bulldozer's way to the bucking and the shuddering of the gears. And when their hands were raised, the ones they praised were the green man Fusiliers.
Sing it if you know it.
Up Broadway to the NBA come the green man Fusiliers. They stole the street with their marching feet, placards high above their ears. In Sydney town, and they would not lie down, they gave mutton scabs and cheer. And it's up Broadway to the MDA come the green man Fusiliers. They made a stand for our sunny land at the Rocks and the Woolloomooloo. On the chimney tops they waltzed with the cops to save a bit of Sydney for you. And the finance fleas who made refugees of families who had been pioneers, they finished on their arse and they did their brass with the green band Fusiliers. All through the years and through my tears, I can see 'em marching again. From the dizzy heights and the concrete sides, in sunshine and in rain, that patch of green's getting a lovely old sheen, no matter how many flow the years. And it's up Broadway to the MBA come the green band Fusiliers. Here's your chance. Oh, up Broadway to the MBA come the green band Fusiliers. They stole the street with their marching feet, placards high above their ears. In Sydney town they would not lie down, they gave mutton scraps and cheer. And it's up Broadway to the MBA come the green man Fusiliers.
The thing about being old folkies is that you kind of tend to believe that if enough people sing, things change. Give it a go. Oh, up Broadway to the MBA come the green band Fusiliers. They stole the street with their marching feet, placards high above their ears. In Sydney town they would not lie down, they gave mutton scabs and cheer. And it's up Broadway to the MBA come the green band Fusiliers. And that's the roar of the crowd. The roar of the crowd, another of Denis's pieces that we won't do tonight, but we will when we get around to the real theme for them. We first met Jacko and Denis Kevans in the mid-90s at a folk festival, and it was one of our very first, if not our first, sort of real. No, it was probably our.
It wasn't the very first.
No, well, we'd been to Woodford and back, and Woodford and back, but our first folky folk festival was the National Folk Festival in 1997. We went to Jamboree before that, but the first, I don't know, Kiama in 1997 was a very big deal. The Nationals was certainly a big deal. Jamboree was too, but I think what it really did is it geared us up for that very, very special festival in Kiama.
Kiama was for those who don't know, it was the Australian folk festival at Kiama. And there was a big emphasis on it was just the Australian traditional drop, basically, with a few others.
No, there was,
some others
I think the
place.
rule was more, sorry, not contradicting, because
No,
there was a lot of that there. Well, there was very, very specific targeting from the programmers to get contemporary singers in who were writing songs with an Australian story.
Yes,
so a localised story. And you know what? It was amongst amongst the first times I turned up, the kind of songwriters who were there.
Dave
Well, yeah.
Was he at the first one?
Yeah, but there were even much younger songwriters there. And a lot of that fostering of Australian stories actually started to come out into the pop charts, and the pop and rock charts started to move into the folk festivals too. So it was the start of something big, I think. But yeah, the tradition was there.
And it was a very egalitarian festival. I think everyone got paid the same quite small flat fee, and you all stayed at the hotel, the pub. So that was the deal.
We wandered around that festival having our mind quietly blown by many people who I would refer to as John Dengate himself, who was one of those people, would say, geniuses, mate. Yeah. and I would hold to that. If they aren't, I don't know who is. John Dengate, just a remarkable array of people. But the people we'll talk about, as we kept hearing Jacko Kevans play in various lineups with various people, and we heard Denis say his poems and was there as well, and singing, I think, with his guitar.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Jacko immediately blew our mind with his presentation, but he also immediately came up to us when he heard us. We were fresh on the scene with very little awareness of what we were dipping our toes into, our hearts into. But he was both in their way. But Jacko, I think, was a born educator. He took his time and he would just drop a word in, But we felt every time those words were dropped into our heads, that magic educator's thing is you'd find yourself thinking that word was like a seed or a little spark of a fire, and it's still burning now, and it burnt and it burnt and it burnt and it burnt, and it always did. One of the people who we heard a song from at that festival was Maisie Kelly. Okay, Maisie Kelly was a remarkable voice from an Aboriginal woman from Armidale, basically, in the New England, and also down that very common, very close thoroughfare through Bellbrook and down to Kempsey, Nulla Creek, Kempsey. Very close ties through there. And Jacko told us a lot about Maisie Kelly that weekend. So what we've done here is we've taken a song we learned from Maisie, which is called My Home in the Valley, about that Nulla Creek area, written by her husband, Clivie. And this one is actually a much later song. This is from the very earliest times of Australian country music, rather than the older traditions. And on the end of this, because it is a song called My Home in the Valley... Hi, Kathy. Hello. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little bit aware of who's out there. Anya Denis, exactly right. Exactly right. I love it. I bet that's Kathy. Putting a little bit of extra details around the green bands. Yes, thank you. So My Home in the Valley from Maisie Kelly, but indirectly from Jacko. And then a tune we most certainly learnt from Jacko. We learnt it in the Guinness Bar at Woodford, sitting there, listening and listening and listening. It's a song that he called, and we call, a tune, sorry, the Home, Sweet Home Mazurka.
My home is set in the valley, in this valley of New South Wales, at the foot of Sugarlow Mountain, by the Nulla Creek's flowing stream that winds its way through the farmland, where it joins up with the Macleay, just 35 miles from Kempsey, is this great green valley I call home. I traveled a fair bit of New South Wales, down the south coast to Nowra I came, but my heart was always in that valley, in the valley that I call my home. cattle came back from that lowland when the floods came down in July. This great green valley I call home.
Its relationship to the old Home Sweet Home, but done as a mazurka and by Jacko. They're not Jack's chords, by the way. And I'm reminded there once we played a song that Jack taught us that Denis actually set to music. So that's one we'll definitely do when we do the kind of proper long theme show from both. But we came off stage, and after playing it, Jack had invited us up and we sang the song. Chloe sang the song, we played the song, Jack played. It was such like a highlight of my Woodford in about 2002 or something. And as we kind of moseyed back to the Guinness bar for a rattly old joint, he said, yeah, I considered a couple of those chords too. Like I say, a born educator. I stuck by the chords. I liked them. I consider the chords quite a lot before I decide on the substitutions and things that I'll use and won't use. And it was obviously one step more coloured than
he was going to go.
And there's a couple in that tune too, same sort of deal. But you can see there's a kind of I guess it's true for every time we sing, but you can see maybe a sub-theme here, a subtext of home. We'll come back to that again and again. So we'll leave Jacko's work behind to a certain extent and do one of Denis Kevans. yeah, I'd say one of his mightiest poems. Would you?
Sure. Yes, I would. This is enormous. And it's Denis stepping into so many traditions at once. It's a marvel, this piece. And he's talking about our country, our landscape, and what's being done to it.
I always think the one thing that is worth holding in the head as the poem goes by, the story goes by, is there is something running through the story about how you can lose something when you're looking straight at it. We're looking straight at a lot of things in the immediate future and maybe losing them at the same time. So it's timely. It's a timely piece. It's set as a conversation between Denis, an imagined conversation, of course, between Denis and, let's just say, the ghost of Banjo Paterson, or the spirit of Banjo Paterson, another theme tonight. The ghosts that we accumulate as we grow a little older. It's a time where we are losing people. Lots of people in their 50s, which is one to give one pause for concern at the moment. Not that I'm anywhere near 50.
No, you're long past it.
Anyway, so, yeah, to absent friends. And I'd like to dedicate this one, not that McGinty's crook or anything, but Chris McGinty, thank you for helping Denis with this one. Thanks for all your great recitations, mate. But in particular, thanks for hosting Denis and making this story real by telling Denis the things you knew and know about this story, which is otherwise hidden, I think. This is Denis Kevans' piece. By the way, one tune in there we learnt from Jack as well. Denis Kevans' piece, Hey Banjo. Hey Banjo, have you heard, mate, what's happened to the run where you rode with old Pat Kiley neath the hot Monero sun? Where you stirred your pipe and choked it, thumbed a wad of weed and stoked it, lit the flames that lit the pictures in the minds of everyone. And fresh from chambers, Banjo, shyly you'd yarn with old Pat Kiley as he talked of the old fella and his plans for Kiley's run. The old fella, Bill, a Kiley from old Ireland, tough and wily, ticket of leave man, sent from Sydney with a dray, an axe and gun. And Banjo, you'll remember each bloom and sweet September how you bid the dust of Sydney an eager, fond farewell. And where honeysuckle's chalices clustered sweet to Kiley's trellises, you woke up murmuring poetry to the sound of the kitchen bell. See, you push through sweetest grasses as the clouds flotilla passes. See, you listen to the stories of the Snowy River men, Troy, Dunn, McNamara, Cummins, Guy and Mick O'Mara yarned and threw away their memories till your rhyming kicked again. There, where warm embers beckoned, old riders yarned and reckoned that the man from Snowy River was a fella called Fitzroy. Or was it another Kiley? Or that Irish bloke, Jack Riley? Or throw in another candidate, the stockman, Jackie Troy. It's there. For the Australian nation, you wrote a mountain station, while savage critics slammed you as a versifying cub. On Kiley's run you wrote it, no need for me to quote it. And another favourite of yours, mate, the G-Bung Polo Club. It was there you met old Clancy. His name was Thomas Francie McNamara. The trees were silent witness to everything was said, and your fertile mind it relished all the yarns with wine embellished. And the man from Snowy River started galloping through your head. At the cutout of the shearing, all the sulkies would be steering for the big dance there at Kiley's, all around the polished hall. And the ball there was a boomer for the hospital at Cooma. Kiley trailed the native flowers all around the rough-hewn walls. There were G-Bung style shatishas and a tub or two of Riches. The cut-out balls at Kylie's would give them all a thrill, with the waltz and the mazurka and the odd bog-eye gone berserker, and barn dances and set lances and a brolga-like quadrille. And Kylie showed you all his ledgers. Braid was fraying on the edges, where he wrote in looping longhand all the records of the run. Those ledgers, bound and leathered, with the shoulders worn and weathered, were kept in careful cupboards. They weren't shown to everyone. And to you he demonstrated the concept he created, 'cause you saw the ditto commas running down the columns blue, where he paid with equal wages all his workers at all stages, whether black or white or brindle, whether male or female too. Yes, there on Kylie's station it was a united nation with no discrimination, and the words I say are true. Hard to think if there'll be ever, now or then, or maybe never, such another mountain station, or another Kylie too. The Kylie spoke the wild Wiradjuri and the dialects of Jacadri. He talked with elder Curries, who took him to a secret part, where the gentle dawn came beaming on the places of their dreaming, and Kylie kept their sacred secrets forever safe inside his heart. Well, Banjo, do you know, mate, what's happened to the show, mate, to the run the Kylie's planted in the hills of sun and snow, to that place Gadudging Billy? You must think that I'm silly. It was sold for radiata just a few short years ago. Sold it? Yeah, for radiata. You know, that green stigmata that porcupines the mountains and sucks the country dry, that bogs the creeks and fills in all the little dams with steely little needles. And I think I'm going to cry. Banjo's eyes turned to me, wary. Was I dolt or dromedary to gouge an old man's feelings who was out of touch with all? But he took my hand to test it, and he pressed it, and he blessed it, and he believed me. Yeah, believe me. And I saw his teardrop fall, where his muse used to waken to whispering pines forsaken, where he hung his reins and bridle, there's nothing there at all. And we found the ledgers, tasselled and by snails' feet razzle-dazzled in a heap of rotting rubbish, just beside a broken kitchen wall. So, Banjo, we'll walk grieving for the things that time is thieving, but we'll take a banshee with us, and I'll hug her silken waist, so her wild song never ceases on the last of the snow leases. For the sleet of dispossession is a bitter sleet to taste. Kylie's run, Gadudging Billy, oh, must be Uncle Willie, Banjo's shrine of shrines, to snatch it, to plant the pine thereon, where his muse used to waken to whispering pines forsaken. A place we should have cherished, but in us now has perished. But inside your heart, Banjo mate, and mine, the flame goes burning on. Banjo Patterson's.
No, Denis's. Well,
Banjo Patterson's voice heard clearly in the mind and of Denis Kevans, and there's so much to say about that story. But maybe it's worth mentioning how well Denis wrote himself into the story too. I
love it. It spans generations. It has everything. It's mythical.
It was Jacko who took us aside as young folkies and old psychedelic rock and rollers and said, "Make it your own.
Yeah,
make it your own."
One of those seeds.
But it was at that. It is a stunning place, Carol. It is. It is and remains a stunning place. One of the people mentioned to us at that folk festival in 1997 by Jacko Kevans was this bloke. I don't know if you can see that. That's Simon MacDonald's book, Time Out of Mind. The story of Simon, anyway, written by Hugh MacDonald. Hugh MacDonald. Hugh MacDonald was a wonderful songwriter.
But he didn't write this book.
The Diamantina Drover is not in here, but it is one of my favourite books of all time. Simon was a remarkable fellow in Creswick. Ruth will correct me if I'm pronouncing that. Creswick, in Victoria. He was a drinker at the pub. In fact, they worked out very quickly, Norm O'Connor and people who recorded Simon, that they'd get a lot more out of him if they took him to the pub. There's some wonderful recordings in the pub of Simon singing when a fight breaks out and they take Simon and the battery-powered, you can hear it all happening, the battery-powered big tape machine and Simon's still singing, and as they get in, and probably out into the parlour or something, away from the blue that's going on, you got the feeling Simon could have been well and truly into that blue if he wasn't singing. And they took it all out and you can hear the blue fading a little bit and the door slammed, and Simon says, well, this happened last week too. On the tape. It's a classic. It is a classic. This song, Simon played some beautiful tunes on the fiddle. He sang The Cockies of Bungaree, which became quite a popular song, and many others. Alan Musgrove, another genius, said he might have been the town drunk, but he had more culture in his thumb than the rest of the town put together. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. Remarkable. Probably I thank Simon most of all for being the only source for the collected version of Morton Bay. What a mighty thing he gave us. But this song is no lesser song. This is another old country ballad that Simon sang, or one of many. One of our very favourites, I would say.
It's a beauty, this one. It's magic. It's very simple and very big at the same time, which all my favourite ones are, really.
Yeah. Mine too. It's been a big week here. I hope you're all going okay. I know some of you are getting over the dreaded and some are still kind of battling. I hope it's just one of those things you hear and you think, oh, gosh, take care, everybody. Everyone's understanding that everyone, I mean, we learned this 2 years ago, didn't we? Everyone's going to have to deal with this thing in their own way and in their own time. There's some in the virus, of course. There's a lot of other big things going on too. But that in particular seems to be affecting a lot of friends at the moment. And it's another thing to give someone a bit of pause to think about what makes a life worth living, and all those things that we do tend to think when we get philosophical. Don't like to do too much of that stuff, do we?
No, we need to sing a song.
The Lost Sailor.
Thus parted me and my sailor boy. Who'll get for me then a small boat over the wide ocean I mean to float, just to watch the French fleet as they sail by, and to inquire for my sailor boy. Oh, she was not long sailing on the deep, when a lofty French ship she turns to me, saying, tell to me of your jovial crew, does my love Jim sail on board with you? Indeed, fair maiden, he is not here, for he is drowned, as I likely fear, over yonder island as we sail by. It was there we lost our fine sailor boy. While she wrung her hands and she tore her hair, like a maid distracted all in despair, and a small boat over the rocks she swung, saying, must I live, am I Jimmy gone?
Simon McDonald's grand old ballads. I often think when we play the old ones, just to feel like saying they don't write them like that anymore, so we play those ones. And we thank Simon for that one, and in sort of directly Jacko Kevans as well. Hi Judy, nice to see you again. Thanks for the hearts. Believe me, the cultural care that comes with just a heart or a message at the moment is very, very welcome in this house. And if the music's going down all right too, then I hope it's a two-way street. Joanna's having a week off. She's decided that she's got another gig, I believe, somewhere. She's getting harder and harder to afford, Joanna. But our sub is very, very good. Hey, Digger. Hi, Digger.
I am your insufficient replica, Joanna, tonight. I have brought pretentious vibes.
You know, let's talk about great MC moments. Our first National Folk Festival, the bloke said, I don't know anything about these next two. They're called Jason and Chloe, and my dog's called Chloe. Here they are. But I still actually prefer Enda Kenny's story. Remember, Enda tells that story about he was in a working man's club in the north of England somewhere and about to sing, and the introduction was, don't know much about this next fella, but he's not my cup of tea, but I were outvoted by committee. Whoa. Yeah. You see, you think that's horrifying, but as a performer, you can't lose, right?
One day I want to be introduced like that. That is my life goal now.
I think I just did. Good on you, Digger. Thanks for coming, mate. I think Megan's got something quite trippy.
I do. Made the dubiously wise decision to try and read prose poetry out loud. It's my favorite kind of poetry, and I may be willing to do unwise things about it. This is a John Jenkins poem called The Silence Around a Glass of Water. 1. I woke and walked to a nearby beach. I wanted to make something transparent with all the beautiful products of chance which liberate. Something with clarity and depth, like an argument about perception, full of the sudden resonances poetic language brings to memory. Something brief but refreshing. 2. Step back from the world a little, and it begins to compose itself into a picture. Eventually it fills with details. They do not seem inevitable. The frame begins to crowd. 2 drops of sea spray collide to produce a third. Glancing light erupts, and a hive of minutiae boil up through the wave. The leaf, the caterpillar, the mobile grammar of each face. 3. I wanted to make something clear, like light in a tidal pool. Something random and refreshing, the play of sinusoidal rainbows on the surface, lemon glances to cool depths below. Like an argument about perception, full of those sudden resonances poetic language brings to memory. 4. And the clarity of simple statements, such as, I like the colour blue, and I am thinking of a white tennis racket, or I prefer the music of Eric Satie to that of Xenakis. 5. I wake and walk to the beach. I can see it from my window. Here, the image of a sandcastle shimmering in midday heat, disintegrating in the wind, is not a symbol of aging, but it is beautiful, and in the wind there is something crystalline, glowing, softly pulsing. The wind is transparent with your name. 6. Faces focus, slip through each frame, the sentences collide, swap verbs in a play of light. Nights, the frame floods with stars, the silence around a glass of water. Days constellate, sentences cohere. Time is like water moving under glass. There are slices of blue sea through a white window. Then the frame floods with stars. 7. Today, clouds appear through a white window. Clouds drift into the frame. One, white and grey, is shaped a little like a rabbit. It's the only one. Soon, then it disappears, leaving an image. Now nothing inhabits the empty frame. Thank you.
Yay! Megan calls that a dubious decision. They have always made the most extraordinary and wonderful dubious decisions their whole life. It's true. And since they were a little kid, they've been able to give us a hurry up. and continue to do so. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I mentioned earlier that a lot of today's show seemed to is for Jacko Kevans and Denis Kevans, but it's for home and it's for ghosts. And one of the things that the National Folk Festival, which is something that's been a big part of our life since we went every year, we presented an array of different things, and we grew with it, and it kind of embraced us from the start. We're very fortunate to the point where 25 years later, it every year pivoted around that week, and it kind of built us. I put on Facebook the other day. It kind of partly made us who we are. But one of the things that happens, it's a natural consequence of getting 25 years passing, and especially as people who've always had very dear mates and also musical mates who are much older and younger and across the ages, but in particular relevancy much older than us. Is I'm sure a lot of you out there will relate to this. I found as we went to the National Folk Festival, I would catch a glimpse of someone, literally see someone who had passed away in the last year or two, or even 5 or 10 years before. I'd really see them like they're there, which makes the whole tummy and heart and head do a lot of things really quickly. And then, because you're in the same place doing the same things, but they are really are ghosts at a festival. For me, that was how it went. Now,
yeah, because you'd seen those people every year at the festival, and different festivals, different people, different ghosts too. But yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
You remember them. You remember the jokes they told sitting on that corner. You remember them. Yeah.
It's not entirely a sad thing. It is a sad thing, but it's a beautiful thing too. The option is to forget these people, and I don't like that one, so I will embrace the idea. But it's not something I chose. You would literally see. I won't start naming them because it's literally tens and tens of great mates and influences and mentors that are no longer with us. Yeah, well, this is the whole thing. I don't think we're getting old, are we? What's Stephen Wright say? I intend to live forever, and so far so good. No, we're okay. But it has been a week of thinking about these things, and this is a song. Just quickly, the story is kind of weird because the song itself is like a ghost. I was hypnotised when I couldn't play guitar, but I'd been mucking around on the guitar for a little while, and just without lessons, just trying to learn off records of my own ears, and I could do some things, but not much. And when I first went off to my 17 changes of school, but my last was forced hand. I was off to boarding school and private school for the first time in my life. It was a very chilled private school situation, beautifully set in a little horseshoe of the Kalare Lachlan River, just outside of Forbes. It was a wonderful spot to land up, and I liked it most of all because there was guitars and amplifiers and drum kits and pianos and these things I couldn't get my hands on. And Forbes was, and is probably, but certainly was, alive with musicians of all kinds who were very keen to share their rock and roll trips, or the trips, both really, actually, come to think of it. But also bush music, dance music, bands. There were a lot of touring acts that would come through either Forbes, but they'd visit the school, they would jam with us. So I learned so much. But one of the first things that happened was a friend, it's a good friend, but it wasn't a friendly thing to do always. He hypnotised me. Now, I don't know what that word means, but that's what he said he did, and it definitely felt like something else. I don't know where I really was, and it was odd, and maybe it was hypnosis. I guess it was something like it. But one of the things he did that was nice, there were other not nice things, as more and more people gathered around to see what kind of an idiot he could make of me. The answer is a big one. But basically, one of the things that was nice is he took me wandering through my house, like I'd grown up and there was a house or something. I was 15, I think. 15, not quite 16. And he took me wandering through the house and he said, right, now you're going into the recording studio and they've just finished making your first album. You've made an album. Right, okay, well that's fun. I like that idea, but I was just kind of there. And then he said, right now you're going to go at the back and there's a beautiful hi-fi and you're going to put the album on. Put it on, pull it out. And there was an album cover. Don't ask me, I'll tell you. All right, it's a bit silly. The name of the album was What's That? A Dog? ? Yeah? Told you about the trips. But this is the song. When I put the needle down, vinyl crack and all, this is the song that was there. And over the next weeks and months, I taught myself to play. And the song, it wasn't a matter of trying to remember the song. It was like trying to forget it. It was so embedded. And then the song itself, so I say I wrote the song, but it's weird. It just kind of was there. And some of the nice ones do feel a bit like that sometimes.
You've heard it first in your head.
Yeah. And the song itself has had a habit of turning up like a ghost. Anyway, this is the song.
Okay.
So again, to absent friends. 1, 2,
rain swept and wind blown. I can see your face carved in the stone. And way up there on high, I see you in the sky. By and well, I thought of you, 'cause lately I've been down on my knees, my world's spinning round. By morning I'll be gone, the long road leading me on and on. Walking a street and someone calls your name, twisting and a turning, you know who's to blame. You're standing in the hotel door, just like the time before, the time before.
That's before I called it. That's not such a stupid name, but that's what was on the back of the record too. So, yeah, whoever gave me that one, whatever gave me that one, thanks, I think. One of the things that really appealed to me, and I think Chloe might agree, when we moved from monstrous psychedelic rock and rollers to murderous kind of intent blues duo to kind of falling back for what I would started to uncover, and Chloe did too, as I would call the deep tradition of modern Australian music, modern as in the last 230 years. One of the things that appeared, two things. One was the humour, and the other was the anti-authoritarian stance of many of the works that stayed with us. We never lose that. Gosh, keep the bastards honest if you can, but without being able to keep them honest, it's at least have a healthy disregard. And we'll do a couple of pieces now. Now, two people who shared that.
Disregard, indeed.
So Jacko, Kevans, and Denis both maintained that healthy disregard in ample quantities to pass it on. The Wild Colonial Boys here is my all-time dream go back in time band. We knew Bill a little bit, Bill Morgan. We met Jim and Tony just here and there, but Bob became a really dear mate, and Jacko we've spoken a lot about. So here's my dream gigs to go back in time for. I'm going to go back to the Beatles in Hamburg, but if that's too scary for me, because it would be the scariest of the gigs, I'd like to go back and watch them and be part of a recording session somewhere in the middle there. Right? So 67, 66. So it's preferably Strawberry Fields Forever. Something like that.
Yeah, well, if you could choose.
Yeah. So also, you've got to go back to the Grateful Dead, and it's got to be somewhere about 70, 71, because I can't go back and not have that lineup, I think. That's where I'd like to be. So they're still in full 60s, like monstrous psychedelic flow. You've got to go back in a similar vein, but in some ways very different. I would love to go back and see Bob Dylan and the band on tour in 66. I don't care where. And I'll hang around for the basement tapes, that Tree with Roots.
Look, are you coming back sometime soon?
But I'm getting there. This is the big one. I'd love to go back in time and hear the Wild Colonial Boys in full flight. It's something off that record. It is amazing, but yeah, you can tell what they would have been like live. And man, I just got to grab my coffee, Chloe.
All right then.
So they reckon Jack Moses wrote this bit of doggerel.
They do, but it's travelled round a bit, this one.
I'm
there's
doing the
various...
police force.
Sorry, the first one. Okay, go for it, because after that we'll get into one that you might know quite well.
This particular duo of songs was also a favourite of my Nan's. Speaking of absent dear friends, Nanny play. So, thinking of you, Nan. So from this little bit of doggerel that Nan liked, we go into as one of the better known Australian bush songs. It's like a mongrel dog. All the good ones are. We know it's been through a lot of hands, and every hand has their say. And I guess we've had a try as well. Tex Morton and Brad Tate in particular, Terry Boylan, and a few other hands as well. When our land was new, scholars then were very few. A poor old cabbie's horse dropped dead in Castlereagh Street, it is said. Now policeman 9, he was standing by, and he saw the Nettie fall and die. On this I must at once report. Can I spell Castlereagh, he thought. God bless the force. There never beat. You drag the horse into King Street.
I went broke in Western Queensland in 1931. Nobody would employ me, so my swag carrying begun. I came down into Charleville through all the West was on my way to Roma. Destination Darling Downs. My pants were getting ragged, my boots were getting thin. When I stopped at Mitchell, a goods train shunted in. I heard that whistle blowing, and looking out could see she was on her way to Roma. It was quite plain to me. Oh, I wish I was about 20 stone and only 7 foot tall. I'd go back to Western Queensland and I'd beat up Sergeant Small. Now as I sat and watched her, inspiration seed was sown. I remember the government slogan, it's the railway that you own. By this time the sun was setting, night was drawing nigh, so I gathered my belongings. Yeah, I took her on the fly. Say any roommate, and I answered plenty more. Come out of there, my noble man, came the voice of Sergeant Small. I've trapped you very nicely. I ever written for a fool? Oh, I wish I was about 20 stone and only 7 foot tall. I'd go back to Western Queensland. Yeah, beat up Sergeant Small. Yeah, Sergeant. Kind to me. He gave me 30 days, saying maybe this will help to cure your rattler jumping ways. Oh, but if you're down and out, black boys, tell you what I think. Stay off those Queensland goods trains. They're a shortcut to the cliff. Oh, I wish I was about 20 stone and only 7 foot tall. I'd go back to Western Queensland. I'd beat up Sergeant Small. Yeah. Oh, I wish I was about 20 stone and only 7 foot tall. I'd go back to Western Queensland. Yeah, I'd beat up Sergeant Small. I'd go back to Western Queensland. I'd beat up Sergeant Small.
Look out, Sergeant, yes. If you had to go back... Oh, Judy says, when I was 4, I begged my mum if I could go to Woodstock. I was there, Judy. I was there.
In your time travelling suit?
Well, I was...
You were born
and a couple of months old and hanging out in Newcastle. You forget that. I was there. I was there. Let's just say I was there, because a lot of people say they were there and weren't. Yeah, I'm with you, Judy. I'm with you. Hey, we're going to go back now to the very first, where the seeds of, well, at least as early as we can, to the seeds of Australian anti-authoritarian songs. And one of the most famous, our version of this on YouTube from a few years ago was heard, this is a true story, our phone rang one day, and it was a bloke called Quentin Tarantino's People. I didn't really know much about Quentin Tarantino, but they said that they were his people, and they were interested in this song and if they could use it. I said, well, it's a traditional song. I mean, we arranged it, but of course, but hey, let's talk. I mean, you know, I'm thinking Hollywood, gee. Never kind of really considered that life before. And they rang back a few times and asked about the song and, you know, where it came from again. And I said that it was first found in a book by Charles McAllister called Old Pioneering Days in the Sunny South. Charles was a mid-19th century bullocky in Goulburn. Wonderful book. Jim Jones at Botany Bay was found in that book. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, please, out there, please do. But I reckon that that's still the only source, original source, but Steck could be corrected about that, but certainly one of the very earliest sources. And anyway, I don't think Charles claimed to have written it. He just said, I know this song, and he wrote it out. Anyway, we didn't hear much about it, and I think it was about a year later, or I don't know, something. A while later, someone said, have you seen your YouTube clip? And not really viral, but like bush music viral. I think it's I don't know, is it 60 or 70 or 80,000 views? And it turns out they did use it, but not us singing it, but they took what we had done and used it in the film. And for some reason, this was linked back to the YouTube clip, which we kind of went crazy. And good luck to him. The Hateful Eight. I've just remembered the name of the movie. Yeah. It was involved in a very horrible incident with a smashing of a Martin guitar that I don't want to think about, and I haven't seen the movie, but I have listened to the song, and I can hear our DNA all over it, but I can also hear Mike Martin's DNA, and Declan Affley's DNA, and the Bushwhackers' DNA, and a lot of other things too. So they used a good song, and when we sing it, there are still moments that I think of. I like to use this song with kids, so you want to hear a real convict song.
Oh, that's what we used to say to them. Do you think they'd sing this song loud or softly? They go, oh yeah, loud. And we said, no. Would you get in trouble for singing this song? Oh yeah, maybe you'd sing it quietly after dark in your dark little cold cell.
So, this one's for all tyrants, including those in Hollywood. And for Charles McAllister, I think he was a wild sort of a hogget, but it's a great book if you can get a hold of it. In fact, let us know if you'd like. I think we've got a PDF hanging around. I think we'd be very... it's a wonderful read, a really slice of life that is very rarely caught in Australia. Something we move on from very quickly, but is formative, and if we don't understand it, then our future is clouded, I think. For all its flaws, it built, around the turn of the 19th, 20th century, it built, I think, one of, if not the most progressive place in the world in most respects. Wouldn't say that now, I don't think. But we hold a candle or two, and so did Denis. And Denis burnt very bright in that sense. Oh, come listen for a moment, lads, hear me tell my tale. How across the sea from England shore I was compelled to sail. Now the jury said he's guilty, sir, and said the judge, said he. For life, Jim Jones, I'm sending you across that stormy sea. And take this tip before you ship to join the Iron Gang. Oh, don't be too gay in Botany Bay, or else you'll surely hang. Or else you'll surely hang, said he. And after that, Jim Jones, it's high up upon the gallows tree, the crows will pick your bones. Oh, you'll have no time for mischief there, remember what I say. They'll flog the poaching out of you down there in Botany Bay. Now the waves were high upon the sea, the wind blew down in gales, but I'd rather have drowned in misery than come to New South Wales. Yes, the waves were high upon the sea, and a pirate ship came along, but the soldiers on our convict ships were a good 500 strong. They opened fire and somehow drove that pirate ship away. But I'd rather join those buccaneers and come to Botany Bay. Cause now it's night and day, the irons clang and like poor galleys blaze. Oh, we toil and toil, and when we die must fill this honoured grave. But by and by they'll break chains, into the bush I'll go. I'll join the bold bush rangers there, Jack Donahue and Co. I'll join the bold bush rangers there, Donahue, Walmsley and Co. In Sydney town, I'll kill the tyrants one and all, I'll shoot those bastards down, I'll give the law a little shock, remember what I say, they'll yet regret they sent Jim Jones in chains to Botany Bay. They'll yet regret they sent Jim Jones in chains to Botany. Those songs stay with you. The idea of the anti-authoritarian nature stays, and often I think as you get older it gets a little bit more metaphorical. And this is a song of Michael O'Rourke's, one of our very favourite songwriters of all time, of any kind, and a mighty man besides. I think there's a little... Can I just interrupt and just have a quick look at the comments? Because I think there might be a bit of...
What are they saying?
I'm sorry, guys, if the internet's giving you grief. It seemed a bit funny at this end too, but maybe it's just so much football on. I don't know what it is, but we'll persevere. If it gets too frustrating, I can see that we're fine here, Chloe. So as best as cool. As best as we can do, we've got the fastest internet that our poor old pedal-powered NBN can manage. In fact, we've got cell data on. Has anyone else worked that out? Cell data is often much faster, especially on the upload.
Theoretically better. Yep.
So hopefully. But anyway, the YouTube's coming. Yeah, a Michael O'Rourke song. Not one of his better known ones. Probably that would come down to things like The Poison Train or T.I. Woman, Sing Us a Song Boys, or No Man's a Stranger, however you refer to that one. This one's called Frank Gardiner's Gang, and speaking of metaphor, I think, I first heard this song from Michael 25 years ago or whatever on the recording. It sounded to me like a song about Frank Gardiner, and it is, but it is a song about what makes a life worth living.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the Grateful Dead before, and they come up when we were singing this song today, because I don't know what Michael thought of the Grateful Dead. He would have had an opinion, and I dare say it wasn't good. But that's a guess. Maybe I'm wrong. But one thing I do know is I would love for Michael to be able to sing this song for Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia. I think it's really close to the territory they work in America, but here. If you're a fan of their songwriting or the Grateful Dead, then I don't know, maybe you agree, maybe you won't. But it certainly seems to me a song about lifestyle choice in a very rich way.
It also just steps really beautifully, I think, into a moment, into Frank Gardiner's shoes at that moment. So he's been exiled, he's put on a ship, he's escaping. Is he getting away with it? How does it actually feel, How does it actually feel to be free? Yeah.
It was Jacko Kevans who told me a story about Michael that I since heard from Greg O'Leary and other people too, which was Michael's quite an eccentric and big man, and the story went that someone walked up behind him on the street in Melbourne, tapped him on the shoulder, and as Michael turned around and peered down at him, he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, mate, I thought you were someone else." And Michael said, "I am." Without weakening a line, I think it's an old Goons line, but it's a good one. Frank Gardiner's Gang.
Frank Gardiner's gang, that's what people used to call us. They're all dead now, there's no one left but me. They've set me free, at least that's what they've told me. Put me on a ship to take me over the sea. Poor Ben's gone, and all me mates gone with him. And what's the use of the roots without the rest of the tree? We used to make the troopers swear and sweat in their uniforms so fine. We would have taken over the country if we'd had a bit more time. Now I can't set foot in my own country again, but they can't stop the darky from making his own way. Maybe things will be better in America, where the Queen's police won't trouble me again. Maybe I should stick to honest work, spend my whole life half asleep. It's a hard thing that's happened, it's enough to make you weep. I can't think of reasons now, I'll rest a while and mend. The colonial aristocracy got their way in the end. Frank Gardiner's gang will ride the roads no more now. We're broken now, there's nothing to be done. I said, do your worst. I thought that they'd hang me, but why should they kill me when anyhow they've won? Sometimes I think that for me to go on living's like being too long awake after the setting of the sun. Or maybe none of us were good men, whatever that means to you. But there were worse things done by the government than we could ever do. You don't mind the evening coming on of a decent sort of day, and they can't stop the darky from making his own way. Maybe I'll get on all right in America. It's a new lease of life for me that's plain. Maybe I could be a squatter and own 1,000 head, but I never thought I'd ever die a peaceful death in bed. It's better than being shot down like a dog. That's what they did to Ben. But if things don't work out, then maybe I'll go on the road again.
Frank Gardiner's gang. Speaking of bushrangers, these shows are free. I first mentioned tonight, I think, but yeah, we do hope for and encourage donations. Our industry is in big trouble, and I think it looks to a lot of people like it's coming roaring back, but it's really not. And one of the things that we're seeing that's hard for people who've managed to make this their life for, oh my goodness, 24, 5 years without, we've been very lucky. One of the things we're finding is that margins, of course, margins were getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the years went by, and, you know, everyone juggles their work in different ways. But one of the things that we used to do was travel to gigs for concerts mostly, and, you know, be paid pretty well and, like, generously with big crowds, and sell lots of CDs and come home, and you'd be able to do that. Now, accommodation, petrol, and crowds that are a quarter the size, that's not possible in our particular case. For other people, I think it is roaring back. The other thing that's really risen lately is what I call the boutique amateur. So a lot of people are playing for fun, and while that was like it was in Sydney 30 years ago, when you had struggled to get paid because a lot of people wanted to play for nothing, that's kind of happening again. So we're finding it tougher and tougher. And there are health concerns, and there's COVID. There's all the things that everyone else is dealing with. But that aspect of the industry has collapsed around us. There's some good news amongst the union fighting, and the conditions need to improve radically. Not just around pay, in fact, maybe not even in relative terms, but around workplace safety at the moment. It's really concerning what musicians are being asked to do if they want to gig, and I think that's an area we can work on. But so we're here and we can do what we can do, and we enjoy it. And if you would like to contribute, we're going to get back out. We're not saying where there won't be gigs. There will be gigs. When no one's retiring or anything stupid. I retire when I'm dead. Maybe not even then. But yeah, the reality is we're going to be working from home with this work.
And working on the shows, the theme presentations, and the recordings, that kind of thing.
And Patreon is one of the ways that people are supporting. I was a reluctant starter on Patreon, but I'm a convert. But we do need it to grow, I think. So if that's of any interest, that's a monthly thing from $3 a month. And some people, and you know who you are, thank you very much, are contributing a lot, very generously over a longer period. But you can just buy an album or donate or anything or through the website. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And watch it on YouTube.
Thank you, Peter. If you do, and donate that does suit some people a lot better than a monthly thing. Really, we just appreciate anything. And as I always say, if you can't or even just don't want to contribute, that's really cool, because just come and enjoy the show. That's the thing, or watch it on YouTube, which a lot of people choose to do. We're going to play a tune that we learnt from Jacko Kevans. I don't know where he learnt this one, so we just call it Jacko's Fling, because I believe it's a kind of dance called a fling, but I don't know much about flings. The second tune that we're going to play comes from Joe Cashmere, who's
the first one.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, I've got them in the wrong order. But I know Jacko played this one too, and he loved Joe Cashmere. He came in 97, 98 to a workshop, a presentation, whatever we did, where Chloe and I and Mike Martin and Roger Hargraves and Mark Rummery, I think, would get up and play Joe Yates tunes from Safari Hill End, the great repertoire of Joe Yates tunes that we were very keen on. And the Harvest Moon Band would play Joe Cashmere tunes. Joe's from further out south and west, from Booligal mostly. They used to say Joe was a great entertainer. Mass hypnosis. They said he was into mass hypnosis. I remember someone saying. Anyway, we used to play like a tune war, you know. Joe Yates tune, Joe Cashmere tune. They'd play, we'd play, they'd play, we'd play.
They had some good ones.
We used to call it "You're Joe King."
Yeah.
So who's the king of bush fiddlers? Right?
It was very good fun.
Yeah.
And they beat us. I remember they beat us. They did, because they knew a Joe Yates tune we didn't know.
But the winner was Joe Yates.
Well, yeah, the winner was Joe Yates.
But they played the tune that we didn't know. Actually, you played it tonight, The Wedding of Locke and McGraw, which is also one Jack played. So, yeah, this is for Jacko. He was a wonderful musician.
Yes. I'll never forget Jacko in court teaching tunes in a session downstairs at Coma in the dugout. In the morning light, I think it probably was, creeping under the panels that were closing around the underneath of the pavilion.
If someone opened the door.
Yeah, no, don't open the door. Anyway, he started playing, and these keen players were on it. They were in there, and he stopped. And he looked around. He said, even Mozart had to hear it once. And then he started playing again, and everybody sat there very, very meekly for a couple of times through before even thinking about having a go.
I remember Chloe and I decided we'd get T-shirts saying even Jacko had to hear it once.
Yeah.
He was such a great player. Goodness. And singer. Yep, I am, I think. Oh, this tune's called Bob in the Wash House.
Yes. It is a good name.
Jacko's Fling. Fun. We've got time for just a couple more tonight. We're going to do a poem of Denis's and a song to finish. Denis wrote a wonderful array of poetry. He had a voice like no one else's and like everyone's. It was an incredible skill that he had. He called himself Australia's poet laureate. I am Australia's lorikeet. I wrote this very fast. You are a beaut. I thee salute. Elizabeth the last. Not a noted monarchist. He had some good ones, didn't he? The Job of the Poet. The Job of the Poet. You ask my occupation, and I know just how you feel. My occupation? Beggar. Beggar with elaborate spiel. Donations. Yes. He wrote, with an ear for the language and a heart for activism and a head to stitch it all together the way no one else could. He made Australia a better place. There's no question.
Strong environmentalist.
He's a strong environmentalist. A communist in his day, as all the good ones were. That's a great book, actually, The Lives of Australian Communists. The thing that really resonated to me reading through that a couple of times is how good the people are in that book. Don't forget the communism, which a lot of people moved away from and becomes culty and strange and odd for a lot of people. But they were, sure, a lot of them were quite kind of eccentric, and here's to the Mad Hatters. But they were wonderful people, just again and again in all their varieties. Just
and their generosity.
And their generosity. And Denis is in the book. So we lost Denis a long time ago now. Goodness, it is a long time. 17 years.
Really?
2005, yeah?
There you go.
Jacko, 2004, sort of 5, yeah. Okay. But he wrote some very funny pieces as well. And this is a piece about, well, speaking of footy, this is a piece about kicking a football. If you've ever kicked a football, you'll know how much joy can be found in kicking a football. You might not like football, but try and kick one day. It is the best fun you can have in the world outside of, the obvious. And I know Paul Kelly tours with a footy, in his touring kit. Paul Kelly, singer-songwriter Paul Kelly, not the other ones. Well, maybe they do too, but I know Paul Kelly does. For me, it was rugby league, of course, and you can tell a lot about someone by the code of football they follow.
Yes.
But when it comes to the punt, everyone around the world dips their hat to AFL, or as Denis calls it, Aussie rules. Denis was a great sportsman, by the way. Both Denis and Jacko were fine sportsmen. Denis, at his peak, played cricket for the Prime Minister's 11 out there in Queanbeyan at Manuka Oval. So great sportsmen. They knew what they were talking about. I think Denis thought in another life he should have been a champion, as he put it himself. Yeah. Well, Denis, you were. Some kicks shine like silver foil. Some kicks shine like jewels. But the greatest kickers in the world are playing Aussie rules. And the kick that shattered diamonds on a day in Melbourne town was Mulrooney's 7-pointer. And it clinched the footy crown. 7 points? You joking? 7 points, mate. Everyone, so zip your lip and listen, and I'll tell you how it's done. Yeah, there was Archie McNamara. He could kick the ball out of sight. But Archibald Mulrooney had a kick like dynamite. He kicked the ball so hard one day, a Melbourne paper states, St. Peter marked it as it whistled through the pearly gates. When saints were praying secretly to ascend to heaven's station, they would telephone Mulrooney to improve their levitation. When the space crew in the rocket had no grog there, not a drap, he kicked them up a carton with a message, beer on tap. Could he kick? When he was little, he towed his brother's arse and he landed in a ski lift up at Kosciuszko Pass. But he's bruised himself a little, and his instep's out of joint from kicking up the broken lift at Sydney's Centre Point. It's the Melbourne footy final. His team is 6 points shy, till Archie, like a swallow, leaps up climbing in the sky. Then, like a Chinese acrobat, fingertips the ball, then wipes it on his Guernsey, the famous number 10. The timer's eyes are tightening. his fingers on the hooter. And the crowd commenced their chanting, Archie Booter! Archie Booter! Archie Booter? Is that a mantra? Well, he was studying the Edda. Archie Booter! Archie Booter! Or a brand of local cheddar. Archie Booter! Is that a mountain in Arabian romance where the prince of jewelled treasures led his harem in a dance?
Archie
Booter! Where the what does he mean, they wonder, as he gallops for the goalpost and he dodges, dives and blunders. Now, Booter, Archie! Booter! The bell goes ding-a-ling, and Archie punts that football with a paralysing ping. The ball explodes off Archie's boot. Now don't none of yous laugh. Archie kicks that ball so hard, he busts it clean in half. Both halves keep on going. He silenced every doubter. The bladder whizzes through the goal, the cover through the outer. The crowd is watching, breathless. It's impossible. Is he gonna? It's 6 points for the cover, for the bladder, just the oneer. And this was the 7-pointer, the first one ever scored. 10 times 10,000 voices opened throttles up and roared. The flagman, like a sailor on a carrier at sea, was waving all his flags at once, and then he yelled, Yippee! The bell, it stopped. The whistle blew. The scorer marked it up, and that's how Big Mulrooney won the Melbourne Footy Cup. Oh, goodness. What a lot of fun.
I wonder if you had to think really hard about the order there, whether we go the Saints first or Space first. I mean, which one kind of feels...
Who's higher?
Yeah.
It depends what they're on, I guess. We're going to finish with this one. This is another piece that started life in Charles McAllister's pioneering days in the sunny south. It all then was picked up by Bill Scott. Speaking of giants of the past, and Bill added 2 verses, I think 2, yeah, I think it's even written here. Yeah, okay, so 1 and 4 came from Charles McAllister's book, and then the 2 and 3 were written by Bill. But I think what really got this going, what really turned the wonderful language into one of I think a beautiful song, is the work of the, I'm going to say again, genius of Bob Rummery. Bob is a wonderful fella with an immense knowledge of all those great things that we are losing, I dare I say. The history of Australia that people like Bob have researched and found is kind of hidden away in a lot of respects. I guess that's what I'm getting at. So thanks, Bob, for that. And his particular genius, I think, as a musician and player, singer, was to hang a tune off words that you would swear had always been there, that you can't separate them. He doesn't miss. He doesn't miss. No. Sometimes the tunes sound simple. I would call them, when they sound simple, deceptively simple. And sometimes they're really adventurous, but they still have that ease with the words, don't they? So I think you'll see, as we think of home, as we think of things gone, absent friends, as a glass, we say, we'll sing this one to say goodnight. Thanks for coming this week.
Yep.
Cultural Care Package series. The 3rd series of Saturday streaming gigs, if you're tuning in for the first time. There's lots more on the YouTube channel. They're all time-stamped, so you don't have to put up with us yakking on. You can skip song to song if that's what you'd like. Or you can skip yak to yak if you want. This all works. In the meantime, thanks for the company. Cheers. Peace. Take care of yourselves, please. And we'll see you around the traps. We will. In the meantime, thanks for coming. I worked on the 9 Mile and out on the river, out on the New Chums and Rocky Plains too. And at each of those places I have done my endeavour, but I've lately struck offers with nothing in view. So I've sold off me shovel, me pick and me dishes, I've rolled up me swag, I'm leaving today, bequeathing my claim to a new chum who wishes to bail a melt water and slide in the clay. Goodbye to Snowy, farewell to Kit's Diner, adieu to the girls at the Empire Hotel. There's no farewell kiss for a broken down digger who's blued all his nuggets and the fine stuff as well. And it's so that I'm longing to see the old places, I'm longing to see old Sydney again. For I'm tired of the snowies, white hills and wild graces. I'm a broken down digger on the Coriander Plain. From tired of the snowies, wide hills and wild graces. We after a intense week of kind of processing here, we decided we needed a spell the other day, and we hopped in the car and I said to Joanna, which direction? She said west. So we drove west for a while, and at an opportune time, nudge nudge, wink wink, I said, Joanna, we need to turn north or south? She said north. And we ended up at Ophir. It's a out of the way little creek, but it is such a beautiful place. But it is obviously known, I hope known, but especially should be known, as the place where payable gold was first found by John Lister and the Tom brothers, and claimed by Edward Hargraves, and that's a whole nother story. But it is really, I think of it as where the baby of modern Australia was rocked in the cradle, metaphorically and literally, with the cradle finding gold there. And we're out there on a sunny autumn day, but the minute you were by the water in the shade, it was already looking for a flannel to throw on the t-shirt. And there was caves, of course, and this is a place where there were tens of thousands, the first rush. So can you imagine the chaos at the first rush? You know, they're pulling ships into Port Jackson, and even the sailors are jumping ship, and you see even old images of ship after ship still there because there's no one to sail the things out. The real big problem for the top end of town was there was no one to do the work anymore, no one to open the door for them, no one to polish the furniture. They're all gone looking for gold and getting richer than them. Yeah, and well, some got rich. Some got rich and fat.
When we were there though, the water was completely calm with the most perfect reflections of guns. It was just
every single rock and some sticks Joanna pick up. It's gold! It's gold! And I couldn't argue, you know. Couldn't argue. But we were out there and it's cold, and I was singing this song and thinking, oh, imagine being at Ophir in winter. You know, maybe not a tent, but if you're lucky, a bit of a throw over thing. Oh, no way. Forget it. Imagine being at on the Coriander goldfields in winter. Tough. They build them tough.
Most beautiful song, though.
If they can put up with a winter in Coriander, we can put up with a couple of years in Millthorpe, I reckon. We're happy and well here, everybody, and I hope you are too. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Good night.